My name is Marcia Andrews, and I am 64 years old. I was born in Augusta, Georgia. I was one of 7 children, so half stayed in Georgia and the other half came down here with my dad. And so that's how I got here, with the other half. Going downtown on Clematis Street, where you could see the bathrooms that had the signs colored and white, and how the counters were segregated and we were not allowed to go to a lot of different places. We only had one theater here for Black Americans, African Americans, and that was called the Grand Theater. And back in the day, we had the secondhand books. We didn't have all of the money. The money wasn't equitably spent in Palm Beach County School District as it is today. And I just saw how it was very difficult back when I was growing up for African Americans, Black Americans, to get the jobs necessary. I saw getting to college was a much more of a challenge for many African Americans. But there's still a barrier for us, and it's kind of like an invisible barrier, and you don't know it's there until you push it, and it pushes back on you and say, well, we don't want you, or you're not qualified, or you can't have this job because I gave it to someone else, but yet still your credentials are the same. I think we are making progress, but I think there's still that racism that's out there. I can tell you that African Americans, Black Americans are still at the end of the spectrum when we're talking about social and economic equality. And even though you see us living in all different places around the world and everywhere, it's still a struggle for us. And we have to make sure that people know that it's not about the color of our skin, it's the content of our character and our abilities to be able to be whatever we want to be, and we have to stand strong in every situation, socially, educationally, and otherwise, to take that leap. They lived in horrible conditions and were treated poorly and beaten to death and gave their lives for me to be free. People have to remember where we came from. They have to remember the sacrifices our forefathers made for us. I went to different movements, and I did not have a problem with marching and being on the front line and holding up a sign saying equal rights for all. But before us, before me, we didn't have educated people in my family. So I had to fight to make sure that my daughter was educated, because it's important to make sure the next generation does better than the generation before. Well, I'm so proud of the youth movement with the National Urban League, and how the Urban League has been there from the beginning, fighting for the rights of equity in housing and employment, in education for all. The Urban League has been able to embrace others, not just African Americans, to work together for the benefit of equity for everybody. And that's what the Urban League does. It's the front runner for the communities to make sure that equity and justice is for all.